Okay, so once again, welcome everybody. If you were here right in the beginning, I introduced myself. My name is Tori Martell. I am the social media community manager with the Allergy and Asthma Network, and I'm really excited to welcome everybody to our first Living Well with Asthma virtual event. We started the Living Well with Asthma campaign to raise awareness about the fact that even small changes in our daily lives can help improve lung health. Starting this month, we are addressing a different topic in each of these live virtual events, each of which are designed to help improve your lung health. We will put a link in the Zoom chat and on our Facebook so you can visit our website to learn more. I'd also like to take a minute to thank GSK for sponsoring this event and our Healthy Lifestyles campaign. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody that we'll be holding a drawing for our new Fitbit Lux Smart Tracker. If you are joining us through Zoom, you are already included in the drawing. If you are joining us through Facebook and would like to be included with the drawing, we will drop a link on our Facebook post. Just click on it to register for this event, and that will include you in the drawing. We will announce the winner at the end of this event and contact the winner by email. So you must be here at the end to be eligible. Today, we are focusing on the best yoga poses for better breathing. So let's get started. Here we have our two wonderful guest hosts who will be leading the conversation about using yoga to help our breathing and your asthma. You are welcome to join in on the conversation and ask questions using either the chat function in Zoom or by posting a comment on our Facebook post. Dr. Payal Gupta is a board-certified adult and pediatric allergist and immunologist in New York. She is also the chair of the Integrated Medicine Committee for the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. Courtney Kwong Hing joins us from Berlin, Germany, where she lives with asthma, multiple food allergies, and eczema. Dr. Gupta and Courtney are co-hosts for their own podcast, the Itch Podcast. We will drop a link to their podcast in the chat here so you can learn more about how to subscribe to it. They will be joined by certified personal trainer Shannon Simpson, who will demonstrate different yoga poses and discuss how yoga can improve breathing. Before I turn it over to Courtney and Dr. Gupta, we'd like to start with a quick poll question. That will be up in 1 sec. Okay, here it is. So let's find out who's here with us tonight. Please select one of the choices below. So there is, I am someone living with asthma and or allergies. I am a parent caregiver for someone with asthma or allergies. I am a health professional. I am someone with another lung condition, or no asthma, allergies, or lung condition. I'm just here because you like yoga or other. So please take a minute to answer this poll question and then we'll look at the results. So as you can see, these are the results. So 24% of you are living with asthma and or allergy, 9% are a parent or caregiver for someone with asthma and or allergies, 52% are health professionals, 6% have another lung condition, 7% are just here because they are interested in yoga, and 2% are other. So thank you for answering our poll question, and I will now turn it over to Courtney and Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Tori. Hi, everyone. We're very happy to be here. A fun fact about me is I actually did my yoga teacher training quite a while back, and I never got to teach because of the way that life seems to go. But I know a lot about yoga, and I have a pretty regular yoga practice. I practice almost every day, so one could say I'm a yogi. And so I'm so happy that we can share this wonderful movement form with you tonight. Before we jump in, we want to start with some more poll questions just to figure out who's here and what you guys are thinking about with yoga. So the first question we have is, how many people here manage asthma or any other lung disease? So the selection we have is, I have asthma, which is me. I have another lung condition. I'm a caregiver for someone with asthma or other lung condition. No asthma or lung condition, just here for yoga. So I'll give you a few seconds to figure out which one you are. And the results are in. So we've got 40% of our audience today has asthma, 7% another lung condition, 29% are caregivers, and 24% are people who are just here for yoga. So, Dr. G, is there anything that you want to say before we jump into this conversation about this poll, or shall we jump into the next poll and then we can get into it?
Let's jump into the next poll and then we can get into it. But I am excited that, there are so many people who are just, here to help others too, and to learn about the practice. So I think this is going to be great for everybody, regardless of whether or not you have asthma or not.
I think everyone needs a little yoga in their life, so I'm pleased. All right, so we want to know how familiar you guys are with yoga so we can kind of gauge where we're going to go with this conversation. So the options are not very familiar, somewhat unfamiliar, somewhat familiar, and very familiar. So I'll give you a few seconds for that too.
Okay, so it looks like 25% are not very familiar. A quarter of the people are not very familiar. 7% are somewhat, or somewhat unfamiliar, and then somewhat familiar, 43%, and 26% very familiar. Okay, great. So, so let's dig in. And, first, I just want to say that, or Courtney, I think you had the first question for me.
Yeah, I did. But I think you were just going to jump into it right away. Are you, as an allergist, do you ever recommend yoga for your patients who are managing asthma?
Yes, I actually recommend yoga to my patients, or forms of exercise to my patients all the time. And I particularly like yoga because there's so many different types of practice. It can be gentle, it can be rigorous. And I love the breath component of it that we're going to talk about, and also the meditation component that can also be associated with yoga. So I think it's a form of exercise that we're learning more and more about, and we're learning more and more about the benefits of really how good it is for your body. So I'm really excited to kind of help people understand those health benefits a little bit more tonight.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know that when you are managing something like asthma, stress control is something you want to have in your life. And yoga has definitely been a practice that's helped me really center myself and figure out when, as you can tell, sometimes my breath gets all clamped up, and it's because I'm not breathing. And the awareness that yoga has given me is to realize that I'm holding my breath, and that maybe something's not happening that should be happening. So what would be interesting for us is, could you explain more from the medical perspective on how yoga can help with breathing?
Yeah, so I think you hit it right on, right on the spot, which is that, yoga is 3 different practices put into one, which is physical exercise, along with like a very a focus on breathing, and then the focus on meditation. And so, again, it is a form of exercise. And what we know from research is that asthmatics who engage in regular exercise programs have, number 1, better overall asthma control, number 2, improved quality of life, 3, they have improved lung function, which means that their lungs just are functioning better. So that's like the breathing test that you do in the office, tends to improve in asthmatics who exercise regularly. They have improved exercise capacity, which means they're able to do more exercise as they exercise more often. And then they also show a decrease in medication use, which means that they're not using their albuterol as often. They don't need to be on as many medications to manage their asthma. So we know that exercise in general is very, very important for our asthma patients. And that's something that I like to highlight, because I think a lot of asthma patients feel like they need to protect themselves and not exert themselves. And it's actually the opposite. We want you to do the things that you need to be doing to keep your body healthy. And again, exercise is one of those things. And so, we need your asthma to, we as doctors can help you control your asthma so that so that you're able to exercise, because every asthmatic should be able to ski, should be able to, run, should be a marathon, can be in marathons, can be basketball players. We have so many examples of athletes that do have asthma. And so I always like to highlight that for my patients, just so that they're not nervous to exercise. And then as far as the breath goes, because yoga focuses on the breath, I really, really love that, because stress and anxiety are known triggers for people's asthma. They're also known to kind of alter our perception of our asthma symptoms. And what I mean by that is that when people are under stress, or they have any kind of anxiety inducing kind of event, their breath is the first thing to feel altered. And so you feel like, oh my God, I can't breathe right now. And that's true for people who don't even have asthma and they have stress or anxiety. They might have that sensation of just not breathing well. And so what yoga helps you do is it helps you really understand your breath. It helps you focus on your breathing. It helps you understand what it feels like to take a normal deep breath. I tell a lot of my patients that when they're feeling that stress and anxiety, that I want them to kind of sit still, that I want them to focus on their breathing, take some nice deep breaths before they reach for their albuterol inhaler, because at times just slow, deep breathing can be all that it takes. And it's not actually your asthma that's being triggered. It's just that you need to slow down your breathing and just understand your breath. And so I think that's the component of yoga that is just so important for our asthmatic patients. And then again, the physical benefits, that I discussed before that we see with exercise, but then it also helps improve your posture. And that's very important for our breathing. If we're hunched over, if we don't have our kind of rib cage nice and wide and open, our lungs can't expand as much as they need to. And so yoga also helps with the posture. And then it also helps with strengthening the muscles that we use to breathe. And so it's really just strengthening your whole body and giving you that kind of tool that you need to understand your breath. And then lastly, some yoga practices are also associated with meditation. And, meditation, we also are having more and more research on, but there are amazing benefits to meditation for the mind and for calming the mind and for people with stress and anxiety. And again, that can be a trigger for people's asthma. And so having something that hopefully will reduce it is super important.
Yes, I can account for many of those things. And one thing about asthma, which I think is really interesting about your posture that you mentioned, is that you become more aware of your core and you can feel your lungs and you can feel the inhale and the exhale. And that's been a really good tell for me to know that this is more of an anxiety thing and it's not my environment that's, because I have environmental triggers for my asthma. And I know that it's not my environment, is something else going on where my constricted breath, and I can feel the difference now between a constricted breath that's anxiety induced and a constricted breath that's something that's environmentally triggered. So I think that's a really good thing to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice to hear a real life experience, because you have such a deep yoga practice and you also suffer from asthma. I think it's really nice that you're able to connect that. And then with that, I want to ask you, how do you guide people on which form of yoga to pick? Because there are so many different forms of yoga. As a yoga instructor or somebody who's taken the course, at least, how do you kind of guide your friends and family, if they want to start yoga?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think that there's so many different types of yoga practices. There's restorative yoga where you're basically lying on pillows for like the whole class and you're just in different postures, which is really an amazing practice to start with if you want to focus on your breath and you want to focus on body awareness. And then there's something in the other extreme, which is like a Bikram yoga class, which is a really, really hot yoga class where you're doing postures twice for an hour and a half and you're sweating and your heart rate is super elevated. So you have to ask yourself, what are the benefits I'm looking for? Am I here for the meditation? Am I here for the breath body connection? Am I here for a really good workout? So that's kind of like the spectrum. I like to start with a gentle yoga class where you kind of get introduced to the postures, you get introduced to the breath and the body connection, because to me, yoga is about that breath body connection. So I really like a vinyasa class, which focuses on like you inhale and you do one movement, you exhale and you do another movement so that you are seeing that connection. What I would say is kind of figure out your goals. And then if you're completely new to the practice, there are so many amazing things online now. So try a bunch out. You know, I have a post on the zestful.com about my tips on starting yoga if you have asthma or allergies. And in that, I recommend 3 different classes of different styles just to get you introduced to them. I personally like to know someone's vetted at the class, just so that I know that I'm doing something correct. So if you want, we can link to that. And I see Linda linked to it. So you can see some classes there that you can test out. But that's basically what I say is figure out your goals and then try it. You know, it's like anything. You might not find the right class for you, but don't stop there. There's so much out there that you need to find the right teacher. You need to find the right atmosphere. You need to keep on looking. You're going to find something that's right for you because there's so much out there. I'm realizing that we're going to want to get to yoga practice soon, but I do have another question for you, Dr. G, and that is for someone who has asthma and who's nervous and who maybe has exercise-induced asthma, should they use their albuterol inhaler before a class?
Yeah. So again, you kind of answer that question. If you have exercise induced asthma and you're going to do one of those more strenuous classes, then if your doctor's instructed you to use your albuterol inhaler before, like 20 minutes before your class, before any kind of strenuous activity, then you would use your albuterol. Now, if you're doing one of those more gentle classes where you're not going to have as much movement, then you might not need your albuterol. But again, for anybody with asthma, you should really be carrying around your albuterol everywhere you go, just in case you have any issues with your asthma, but definitely before you go to any kind of exercise or any kind of class where you might be exerting yourself, you should have your albuterol inhaler just in case you need it. And then I think, Courtney, we should do our last question because I think it goes over a couple of important things, and then we can kind of go into, and then we can have Shannon teach us, and she's an amazing instructor. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, we want to get to practicing. So let's jump into the last question, which is how can someone prepare for their first yoga class if they have asthma?
Yeah. So again, you always want to check in with your physician if you're nervous or if your doctor's ever told you that you need to be careful with any form of exercise. But as we've discussed, there's so many different types of yoga and you can find a gentle form of yoga. So really, I think yoga is safe for most and every patient out there because it is mostly stretching and breathing, depending on the class that you do. But again, you always want to make sure you have your albuterol. In addition, if you're going to a studio for a yoga class, you want to call ahead because sometimes they use incense and candles, and that can be aggravating for people with asthma. So you want to find out, especially if that's one of your triggers, you want to find out if the studio that you're potentially going to might use any of those things. And then on the day of your class, if you're having a hard time with your asthma, it might not be the best time to go. However, again, if you're doing a class that's just kind of a relaxation, meditation, breathing, then even if your asthma is not where you ideally want it to be, you should be able to do that practice. And then lastly, if at any time you're not feeling good while you're practicing, then you just rest. And that's the great thing about yoga. You'll find that in most classes, they give you that space whenever, if you're not feeling like the pose is right for you, if you're not feeling up to doing whatever the class is doing, you can get into a nice kind of child's pose. That's one of the poses that I think we're going to discuss today. It's just a nice, easy, like resting pose that is also still a stretch, and you can just kind of get into that pose and focus on your breath. So let's get into, let's grab your yoga mats if you have them. And yep, Courtney's got hers.
I'm excited. Can't you tell?
Yes. I mean, Shannon's just absolutely great. I'm really excited. And so let's get it going with Shannon.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Again, my name is Shannon Simpson and I am a certified personal trainer in the Northern Virginia area. Today I'm going to be going over the top 6 best yoga poses for better breathing. Yoga is a great exercise for improving flexibility, relieving stress, and increasing core strength, as well as increasing lung capacity, improving posture, and strengthening the respiratory muscles. So today we will go through 6 of the best exercises for you to do. You can do them from home. They are very simple. I'll go through each one, explain the benefits, explain how to do the exercises, and then how to put it into practice. So if you have any questions at the end, please feel free to let us know. Let's get started. So the first pose that we are going to go through is called Sukhasana, or easy pose. It's not always so easy because you're really focusing on your breath throughout this position. So you'll start in a cross-legged position. You want to make sure that your shoulders are stacked right over your hips and your back is nice and flat. So avoid rounding out your lower spine or your upper spine. Everything is lifted, chest is proud, as if someone was pulling a string from the top of your head toward the ceiling. You can place your hands gently on your thighs. You're going to take a nice deep breath in through your nose and exhale out through the mouth. As you inhale, really feel the lungs fill up to the best of your ability here. And release. You want to take about 3 to 5 nice deep breaths in and deep breaths out in this position. The next pose is going to be a bridge pose, which is in a lying down position. In this pose, you will focus on opening up the chest to improve each nice deep breath. So go ahead and start lying down all the way on your back. Then bring your arms to your sides. Heels come in as close to your hips as you can get them. Toes point forward. From here, you will squeeze the glutes to lift your hips up into that bridge position. Nice deep breath in. And exhale, gently bringing your pelvis back to the floor. No space underneath your spine right here. So you have a nice flat back as you press through the heels to lift all the way up. Hold it at the top here. Really opening up the chest and then slowly lowering down. Going through about 5 to 10 repetitions of this. Another good benefit of the lying bridge pose is strengthening the lower body. So along with using the core and increasing the lung capacity here, you're also strengthening the glutes, the quads, and the hamstrings. So that is a really good pose to work through each and every single day. The next exercise is called a cobra pose. And the benefits of this pose is that it increases your blood circulation and it really expands the chest muscles to open up that area for your lungs to take those nice deep breaths that we love so much. So go ahead and start by lying down on the front side of your body, nice and gentle. You can uncurl the toes, then send the hands right underneath your shoulders. From here, pressing your hands through the ground to lift yourself up to straight arms. If you aren't able to come all the way up straight, that is okay. Just go to your highest point. You'll feel a stretch in the abdomen here. You can lift your chin up toward the ceiling. Be sure that you're pressing your shoulders down and away from your ears to really open up the chest, and then slowly lower all the way back down, one vertebrae at a time, pressing all the way back up. Looking up at the ceiling, sinking your hips down into the ground, really relaxing the lower body here, focusing on opening up the chest, and release all the way down. If you're not yet able to get all the way up into the cobra pose, you can do a modified version, which is called the Sphinx pose. It has the same benefits, but you just press your forearms into the ground, sinking your hips down, chin and chest are lifted, really stretching the abdomen, opening up the chest, and taking nice deep breaths here. So 3 to 5 repetitions on this, nice and slow, taking those nice deep breaths will really increase the circulation of the blood and expand that chest muscles as well. The fourth yoga pose that I am going to show you is called a cat-cow. This position is really, really great for opening up, expanding the lungs, expanding the upper and lower back, and releasing any tension in the core. So you will start on your hands and knees. Wrists are right under your shoulders, knees right under your hips. Starting with a nice neutral spine, so your back is nice and flat. From here, really pressing your hands into the ground to round out your spine as much as you can. Nice deep inhale. And as you exhale, releasing everything down, sinking your belly button toward the floor, lifting up your chest. And back to the cat. Nice deep inhale in this position, really feeling the expansion of the upper back. And exhale. All the way through. One more time. All the way in. And all the way out. And come back carefully to a neutral spine. That exercise is very, very stress relieving to move through, especially for those of us that sit all day at a desk. That is a really good exercise to increase flexibility in the spine, in the core, and also to just release tension in the vertebrae and, like I said before, improve those nice deep breathing techniques. The next pose will be done on both sides. It is a supine twist, meaning a lying down twist of the spine. This is going to release tension in the low back and also encourage deeper breathing. So you will start in a lying down position with your feet nice and flat. Arms by your sides to start. Then go ahead and tuck your right knee all the way into your chest. You can hold here for a breath. Really anchor both of the hips down into the floor. And when you're ready, grab onto the outside of your knee with your left hand. Your right hand will go out into a T. Stay gazing at your right hand as you twist the lower spine, sending your right knee over to the left side. Taking a few deep breaths in this position. You may feel some tightness, but as you stay in this position and practice it daily, you will start to feel those muscles release tension, and you'll find that you're able to take nice deep breaths in this position as well. So 3 to 5 nice deep breaths, then bringing it back center and switching to the other side, tucking the left knee into the chest. Right leg goes long. Nice deep breath here. Then grabbing onto your left knee with your right hand, twisting all the way over toward the right, looking to your left. Left arm is out into a T shape. Couple of deep breaths right there. So like I said, that is a really good exercise to increase flexibility in the low spine, which is always needed, and to encourage that deep breathing as your torso is twisted in an abnormal position. That's going to allow for the respiratory muscles to strengthen and for the lungs to gather more oxygen with each breath. And last but not least is the yoga pose Savasana, or lying down pose. This pose happens at the end of yoga practice, and it is a great way to release tension all around, to meditate, to relieve stress, and to really put all of your focus in on your breathing. So you will start in a lying down position, relaxing your arms and legs down into the floor, closing your eyes, taking a nice deep breath. As you exhale, letting your entire body sink down into the floor here. Just maintaining those nice deep breaths. If your mind starts to wander, just focus back in on your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And with each breath, relaxing the muscles further and further down into the floor below. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes, turn to one side to press yourself back up into a seated position, and you are all done. So thank you so much again for joining me. Like I said, those 6 poses are great for increasing respiratory muscle strength, increasing lung capacity, relieving stress, and overall just improving strength and flexibility. My name is Shannon. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will shoot my contact information at the bottom of this screen in case you have any more questions or would like any advice on your yoga practice or your day-to-day exercise, nutrition, or wellness practices. Great to see you all, and I will see you next time.
Thank you, Shannon, for that video, and we hope you all enjoyed those yoga exercises. So we have received some great questions from the viewers through chat, and I just want to thank everybody for submitting those. We'll try to answer as many as we can, and so we'll start right away. Our first question from the audience is, can yoga help with vocal cord dysfunction?
So vocal cord dysfunction is something where you usually work with a speech therapist, somebody that can help you focus on particular exercises, depending on what kind of situation you have going with the vocal cords that's kind of causing your breathing to feel just not right. And so, you know, I think yoga can complement that. I think that you would, again, definitely continue whatever therapy is recommended by your doctor. But I do believe that yoga can definitely complement any condition really, and help with any condition. And, you know, again, knowing your normal breath, knowing how to control your breath, and being aware of all of those things is important just for our general well-being. So yeah, I do think that it would be beneficial for something like vocal cord dysfunction.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. The next question is it safe to go to a yoga studio during the pandemic if you have asthma, I'm so sorry about that, or COPD?
Yeah, so actually this was one of the questions that we were going to go over, and so I'm glad that you asked. So, you know, if you're nervous about in-person classes, it's okay to do yoga over, you know, through the internet, through classes that are available. There's even some, I think, live classes where, you know, both like you're kind of on video and the instructors on video so they can actually see you and talk to you. Those are also available. As far as it being safe, it's really dependent on the yoga studio that you're going to go to, what kind of practices they have in place to keep everyone safe. Are they checking to make sure that everyone's vaccinated? Would you need to wear your mask? How spaced out are people? Things like that. And so it's really going to depend on those kind of factors as far as whether or not it's safe. But I think if you're vaccinated and everyone else in the room is vaccinated and they're making sure that no one's feeling sick or has any symptoms, then I do think that it should be okay.
Thank you for sharing that. The next question is, does yoga need to modify for different age groups?
Yeah, so as Shannon was kind of doing that, and Courtney might have some other suggestions too, but I was just thinking, because I'm sitting here in my chair, and I was doing some of at least the breathing as she was talking. And so there is something called chair yoga, for example, for older people that maybe can't do all of the poses. So there are different forms of yoga for every age group. And Court, I think you would actually be able to answer this even better.
Yeah, I think everyone has a different physical ability, right? So if it's your first time doing class, like when I first started yoga, my toes looked like they were 2 miles away. It was just like an impossibility. I was like, there's no way those are ever going to be touched by these fingers. But with time, it changes. And I think that you shouldn't get discouraged. So whatever level you're at, if you can barely lift up your arm, or if you're like, a contortionist, you'll find a practice for you, but you can also find ways to modify. So I think that I wouldn't say there's a yoga for an age group, but there's a yoga for your body, right? There's a yoga for where you're at right now. And you can also modify. Not every pose you're gonna, nail. And some poses you're never gonna be able to get into because your body's just not gonna let you. You're just built in a way that posture is just not gonna be for you. But I do have something here, and it is a yoga block. And I think that if you're new to the practice, or if you've been practicing for years, a yoga block is your best friend because it will help you get into postures that might not be as accessible at the beginning, or might never be accessible. And it's also really important to find positions that allow you to breathe. The worst thing you want to do is get into a yoga pose and then hold your breath, right? Because you're like, I'm gonna be in this pose for 30 seconds, I've got it. And you're like, that's not the point. So modify, use props, and just listen to your body, because it's going to tell you where it is now and it will be somewhere else tomorrow. And you might have gotten into one posture yesterday and it's not going to be possible today. So I would say it's about your body. It's not about your age. It's not about your physical ability. It's where you are now, and then just find whatever suits you.
Thank you for that. Our next question is if you guys could comment on medical conditions that are not advisable for yoga, such as osteoporosis or arthritis, and of course there are others.
Yeah. So again, we've kind of highlighted this a couple of times because there's so many different forms of yoga. There's just breath yoga, meditative yoga, restorative yoga. People with osteoporosis, people with other kind of joint issues and things, we actually tell them that they need to stretch and they need to do more physical activity. And for women, a way to prevent osteoporosis is actually to do some weightlifting as much as you can. And so it's kind of, again, talk to your doctor, make sure that they're comfortable with whatever form of exercise that you want to do if you have any concerns. But I don't think that your doctor will be opposed to you doing yoga, definitely.
Thank you for that. And our last question is, how is yoga different or beneficial for those with obstructive lung disease as opposed to restrictive lung disease?
Yeah, so I mean, again, both of those diseases are, conditions of the lung, and again, as we've been speaking, they're just learning your breath for either condition is super important. Improving your posture is important for either condition. Improving the strength of the muscles that you use to breathe is important for either condition. So really there isn't a difference as far as this practice goes and how beneficial it'll be for you. It's really going to be beneficial for everyone. I know I fell off during the pandemic and with my pregnancy and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm, just listening to Courtney, listening to Shannon, I kind of have a renewed desire to go back and get on the mat. And then just one other thing that I want to say is that you don't need to buy all these like special things to start a yoga practice. You can do yoga on a carpet. You can do it kind of on a towel. You can do it on a hard floor. So really, you don't need to have anything special to do it. And most yoga studios, for example, will have the blocks that Courtney mentioned. But if you're practicing at home with a video, you can really do all of those practices without any special tools. And we also want to let you know that Shannon's video, because she goes through each pose, and each pose is meant to be done, she recommended how many times you should do them. You can stop and play, rewind, stop and play, and kind of do that over and over. And that's one of the benefits of kind of looking at videos online, is that you can slow it down as much as you need. So, if that's going to be available for you to view later on the Allergy and Asthma Network website. So I encourage you all, this was just a taste of it, but, if you really want to go through each of those poses again, you should. And you can do them not just one time, but several times to really make them effective. So that's it.
Thank you. So any final thoughts, Courtney or Dr. Gupta, that you would like to share?
Just listen to your body. Be good to your body. Take water to your class. Take your inhaler to your class. Take a friend to a class, or do, I know a lot of people that do online classes together with people that they feel safe with. So that's another way to do classes. But again, just always listen to your body. And like Courtney said, meet your body where it needs to be met with the classes that you decide to do. And then if you ever have any questions, there's so many people to reach out to. And if you ever have any questions for us, you can always reach out to us too. And I think all of our social profiles are going to be, our Instagram profiles are going to be linked here. And then, again, the podcast that we have is actually for asthma and allergy patients. And we review a lot of topics on asthma, on allergies, on other immune conditions. So it's also a good educational resource.
Yeah, I think that Dr. G summed that up really nicely, is don't feel like you need to get into the posture today. Yoga is a journey. It's not a destination. And what you learn on that journey is beautiful for you mentally, for you in your heart, for you in your soul, and hopefully for your breath as well.
Thank you for that. So thank you, Dr. Gupta and Courtney. This has been such an insightful and engaging discussion, and we hope everyone who joined with us tonight learned something about adding yoga to your asthma management. So now it's time to announce the winner of the Fitbit Luxe Fitness Tracker. The winner is Constance Facenda. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, but we will be in touch via email with you to figure out how to make arrangements to get that Fitbit Luxe to you. So congratulations on winning. Feel free to leave a comment in the Zoom chat or the Facebook post to give us some feedback. And once again, we welcome you to click on the link within the Zoom chat or our Facebook post to learn more about lifestyle changes to manage asthma. You can also visit us at our website, which is allergyasthmanetwork.org. There was also a link in the Zoom chat and the Facebook post to Dr. Gupta's and Courtney's podcast, The Itch Podcast. So make sure to subscribe to this amazing podcast. Next month, our Living Well with Asthma campaign continues with a look at how stress can impact asthma and your lung health, especially during the holiday season. Look for more information and registration on allergyasthmanetwork.org or through our social media platforms in the upcoming weeks. Lastly, we just want to take the time to thank GSK for sponsoring our Living Well with Asthma campaign. And we thank all of you for joining us tonight, and we hope you had a great experience, and we are excited to see you next time on Living Well with Asthma. Thanks again. Have a great night.